All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and if you're here, it's because you're ready to reduce stress, burn stubborn fat, and get your body working with you instead of against you. On this podcast, we're all about simple, no BS strategies for fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. This way, you can feel strong, confident, and in control. I'll give you the tools, mindset shifts, and habits to help you look and feel your best without spending hours in the gym or stressing over every single meal. Now, let's get into it. All right, welcome back. So first I want to start by saying thank you for spending some time with. All right, welcome back. And so first I want to start by saying thank you for just spending some time with me. I know that you're extremely busy and you have a lot going on, and time is the most precious resource that we have. So thank you for spending it with me here today. And I know that you might be listening to this, and since it's a health podcast, you might be frustrated with the way your body feels, the symptoms that you're experiencing, and maybe there's a little disconnect from your body, right? So today we're going to bring some clarity to that, and I'm going to share a little bit about my story, about why I do what I do, and how it directly correlates into how I approach coaching and spreading my message and bringing value to you in a way that hopefully feels relatable, because I'm not here trying to give you all of this perfect data that you need to go do right now and it's the step-by-step plan. Like, yes, I'm going to give you some advice towards your health and towards your fitness, but today we're going to take a step back and go from more of the emotional and the connective side of things, because your thoughts, your beliefs, and the way that you operate from a subconscious level really drives all of those actions anyway. So let me start by sharing a little bit about my story, because it helps if you understand where I'm coming from and why I'm speaking about this topic. Because if you don't know, I'm a 31-year-old man, and specifically, I help menopausal and perimenopausal women with their health. Now, I know that might seem far-fetched, but just to kind of to catch you up to speed as to why I do that, I have to go back to even my childhood and how this all evolved. So growing up, I was an athlete. I played every sport under the sun. The youngest of three boys. So growing up in that household, I didn't really do instruments or plays or musicals. I just played sports. And that wasn't, for any reason or other than that's what I was obsessed with. That's what I fell in love with. So I played every sport I could, both competitively, through travel, and even in the house with my brothers and friends around the neighborhood. That's all I did. That's all I thought about. So as I started to get older, my vision, my goal was to play college lacrosse. So like I said, I played a lot of sports: basketball, football, soccer. Lacrosse was my main one. And then I fell in love with that, right? So I wasn't thinking about a career. I wasn't thinking about owning a business or a family or a house or any of that stuff. None of that stuff was on my radar. I was just concerned with being the best lacrosse player that I could be, and that meant playing at the college level. So I dedicated myself to that. In my free time, I'd practice in my backyard. I played on multiple teams. I always was carrying my stick, doing tricks and practicing that, watching videos, right? I was full blown obsessed. And over the course of time, throughout high school, I did achieve my goal, right? I got a scholarship to play college lacrosse. And I was thrilled with that. And I wasn't really looking any far past that, because I was reaching my goal. That's all I wanted to focus on, was just doing that. And in my senior year of high school, I experienced multiple concussions, one in soccer, one in football, and it really set me back. I couldn't really finish out my senior year of soccer. I was the kicker in football and actually got hit, so that kind of threw me off. And then I did play my senior year of lacrosse, but the symptoms still lingered, right? I was experiencing heavy eyes, nausea, stars, and this would just be when I was doing any physical bout. Even in gym class, I tried to run a little bit and I felt like I needed to pass out. So that was kind of scary, and I kind of rested. And then starting freshman year of college, I was participating in lacrosse, right? A new group of friends, a new team, a new brotherhood that we were building. And so that meant two-a-day practices. That meant study hall together, right? You're starting on this new adventure, this new journey. And in practice, we'd exert ourselves to a good amount, and we started to hit, right? And I got hit again pretty bad and experienced another concussion. And all those symptoms came back, but even worse. So now it was like trying to run in practice,
get lightheaded, heavy eyes. And I really had to take a step back and have a conversation with myself about what was more important about my future. Was it to continue to play college lacrosse and fulfill that goal from when I was a child, or was it to protect my health for the long haul? Because believe it or not, and maybe ironically, my senior year of high school, I did my research paper on CTE, and that is traumatic brain injury that happens from concussions long term. And so having that little bit of knowledge, I had to take a step back, talk with my parents about it, talk with my close friends, and eventually sat down with my coach and the team and had to step back from playing lacrosse. Now, that was a hard decision because I felt like I was giving up on my dream. I was giving up on my team, on my family, on anyone who ever came to watch me play. I felt like I was just giving up on them. And that took a toll on my mental state because not only did it shift that kind of like belief in myself, it also, in a snap of a finger, I was a different person. I no longer had that team anymore. There was no sports anymore, and my focus was just to get my degree and finish school. And so I felt like kind of like an imposter. I felt like I lost my identity, and what I did was to protect myself was I changed schools because that school that I went to was so tiny that if you didn't play a sport, you really didn't go to that school. So I made the decision to transfer schools and just focus on getting my degree. Now, the bad part about that is I didn't really have a focus afterwards. It wasn't like, hey, I want to get my degree and go be a doctor or go into biology research or whatever. It was just like, I need to put my blindfolds on and get my college degree because that was the next step that I thought in my path. But what I was really doing was I was lost, right? I had lost my identity from the time I was a little kid until college. My only focus was sports, and I wasn't prepared for anything else. So when that got stripped of me in what felt like an instant, I had nowhere to turn. And I felt lost in my body because I couldn't exercise anymore. I couldn't exert myself, or else I'd have symptoms of a concussion. And my identity was stripped because I was the athlete, I was the college lacrosse player. And now all of a sudden, I felt like I had lost my friends, I had lost my passion, I had lost my purpose in life. And those years kind of felt like a blur. It almost felt like I blacked out and just said, let's just get my college degree and like that's it because what else is there to focus on? So what happened was, you feel pretty lonely, you lose your identity, and I gave some time off from sports and things and finally started to want to move my body again. So I went back into the gym and said, you know what? Like maybe I can just lean on exercise because that's where I felt like I was challenging myself. I was sweating. It was that competitive nature, but instead of competing on a field, I was competing with myself. How much can I lift? How far can I run? And eventually, over time, my body started to be okay with exercise. Even though it was a physical exertion, it wasn't hitting, it wasn't banging my head on things, and I wasn't experiencing those symptoms like I was when I was playing the sport, which was nice because I got to push myself. And so I fell in love with that. And instead of again looking far down the road as to what my mission and purpose and life would look like, I just focused on the gym, right? I had attached my identity to competition again. And I started lifting weights, and I wasn't doing it for the abs or muscles or to get girls or anything like that. I just had my identity attached to progress and to pushing myself because that's kind of what was familiar to me, right? I would do that in practice and on the field. Now I was just doing it in the gym. And by doing that, I did achieve some results, right? Like yeah, I grew my muscles, I grew my strength and my confidence in that sense. So, it was started with friends. Friends started to ask to work out with me and ask for some advice and what should I do here and that. And I thought, hey, that could be something cool where I help people, but I wanted to do it in the right way. So I did go through college, and after college, I decided that it might be a good idea to get my personal training certification. This way, I could do it professionally, and I could also do it in a way that felt good. I wasn't just like giving people tips. I knew what I was talking about from a greater sense, and I was doing it in a legal way, right? So I started training clients and, helping them just strength train talk about things. It's almost like therapy for the body and for the mind, right? Where you're putting yourself in a good state, you're preparing yourself for what life has to throw at us and improving yourself at the same time. And through that expansiveness of thought of bettering other people, but also expanding my vision, now I got to see clearer again and set some goals for myself. And instead of being, hey, I just want to play college lacrosse, now I said, hey, maybe I could turn this into a business. And you start to get around people and learn from others online of what's possible out there. And through that, I thought, there's a lot of fitness studios out there, and that would be my next endeavor into which I could help more people at a mass scale and also grow my life. And so I would train people on the side. I'd work a job, save up that money, and over a couple of years, I did open a fitness studio. Now, this is where it's all coming to fruition about how it connects to you, right? Because through personal training and a group fitness studio, I started to see very clearly what the demographic was for this style of training. And that was women, typically 40 and older, right? And not that I didn't help work with men, and not that we exclude men from the studio or who I train with, but majority, I'd say 85 to 90% of the clientele were women 40 and older. And they wanted direction, they wanted simplicity, and they wanted to feel that sense of community in the sense where they could grow and gain strength and help themselves improve their health in a way that felt good to them, right? It wasn't intimidating, it wasn't scary, and it wasn't frustrating. So, I've been doing that for 5 years now, working with predominantly women. And in that process, you have conversations, right? You meet someone first. You don't just start working out right away. You meet someone, you understand where their current health is, what they've tried in the past, what they're experiencing, where they'd like to see themselves. You go through all of these things and you start to see trends, right? Where there's a lot of similar symptoms, there's a lot of similar conversations and identities that they're kind of saying to themselves and maybe some limiting beliefs. And it became frustrating for me because not frustrating in the sense that they weren't doing the work or like other things. It was more so frustrating that I felt their emotion and I had empathy for them. All of these women were struggling deep down. They might put on a smile and show up for work and show up for their family in a way, but when it really came down to it inside, they felt a little lost. They felt frustrated that number one, they're doing a lot of work, right? They're working out in the gym, they're trying to change up their eating habits, and they're doing what they thought was necessary. While at the same time, they would be struggling to go to sleep at night. They'd go to their doctor's visits and get labs back and they'd say that they're normal. Or, they think that they're just getting older, while at the same time feeling disconnected from themselves, from their body, and that their identity that they grew up believing was now different. So let me explain, right? So a lot of these women that I would talk to, if you're in your peri and postmenopausal phases, that's a huge transformation in how your body operates, your biology, your hormonal adjustments. And so for a lot of these women, they are mothers or their wives or they're business women or all of them together, right? So that's a lot of hats to wear. And your life is very busy. You're getting kids to school, you're rushing around going to practices, working hard at your career, trying to be a wife, a mother, a coworker. You have all these hats on and you're so busy and you're crushing it. And maybe if your health felt off, you could do a cleanse or go on a diet real quick and push harder in the gym and lose some weight and feel good about that, or at least keep it at a manageable level while your focus was still solving everyone else's problems.
Hey, hope you're loving the episode so far. Thanks for spending some time with me. I got a quick favor to ask. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because that's how I know you're getting value from the show. And this way, you never miss an episode. All right, now back to the show.
Now, here's where this comes into play and how it relates to my story is the fact that when that simmers down, a couple things happen, right? The kids, maybe they graduate college and they move out of the house, or you retire from your job, or things slow down or shift in a sense that isn't the same commotion that your life was for 10, 20, or 30 years, right? You're no longer raising young children. You're no longer trying to start your career. You're no longer trying to do 20 different things at one time. So those things slow down. But as that's happening, your body is transitioning. It's going through its final transition in life, and that's menopause. And that's where your your hormones are adjusting, your estrogen and progesterone drop, your body is not responding the way it used to. So now what happens is you're still working out like you did, but now the exercise, you don't recover as fast and you're not losing weight as fast and you're experiencing bloating when you eat and you're not able to sleep at night. And you also, what I hear a lot of times is that they want their old, they don't feel like themselves anymore. They want their old body back. They feel like they're a different person and then they're disconnected. So the reason why draw this correlation is because a similar thing happened to me, right? Like all I was focused on was lacrosse and becoming that person. I wasn't thinking about anything else. Just like you have been busy raising children, doing all of these things, you weren't thinking about what's life like when you're 60, what's life like when you're retired. You may have kind of planned for it, but you were just so focused on everything else that you weren't planning for it. And then what seemed like a blink of an eye is now the kids are out of the house. Now you're still working in your job, but your body feels like it's a shell of itself. It's not responding the way you want to. Whenever you eat, you get bloated. You can't sleep at nighttime, so now you're exhausted. And that's frustrating as hell, right? So the reason why I connect with you and other women in this sense is that I had lost that identity and had to rebuild it through something. And that something was data, was support, and was clarity. And that right there is how now I approach my coaching, how I want to pursue helping these women in this phase of life. Because while I'm a man and I have never and will never experience what menopause is like, I also don't promote myself to know that, right? I'm not saying that just because your estrogen drops and I know a little bit about what's happening during your menopause. I don't claim to say I know every single thing. I know the ins and outs and the intricacies of female health, even though I'm trying to learn more and more every day. I relate to it on a sense of identity, on a sense of purpose, on a sense of mission and emotional intelligence to a way that when you shift your beliefs and you gain clarity and you get data, that you're able to get out of the noise and the cloud and the frustration that you're in and step into a new, more vibrant, more vital identity. Because guess what? Although this is the final hormonal transition in your female biology, it doesn't mean life is over, right? Just because you're experiencing those symptoms doesn't mean that you're getting old, right? It is a natural form of life, and you're meant to live out 40, 50, however many more years that you want to live, and that we can hopefully have an extended, prolonged, vital life. It's my job to help you with that. And as soon as we can shift our identity from, oh my gosh, I am broken, I need to be fixed, to a sense of understanding and clarity and move with purpose towards our goal rather than away from fixing something or changing something that's not working, you get to come from a place of confidence and stability and support. And that's what I am here to do. So the reason why I take this approach is because no matter what physical habits that you have, no matter what your workout routine is, what your diet is, what your sleep patterns are like, if your body is in a heightened sense of stress, of I need to fix this, of your identity is broken and your subconscious is wired in a way that is not serving you, those habits will not bear fruit. So when we can draw that bridge of, okay, here's why my body is feeling this way. I am not alone in this. It is totally normal to experience these things, to have these thoughts, and to have a little clarity on things and bring that to, all right, this is why my body feels this way. There are other women and other people who have experienced things like this and have gotten through it. I can see the changes that I'm making physically with my habits and my mindset and taking those steps towards something. And then the other thing is building the identity, right? Getting a new picture of what it looks like to be your best self. Like when I was in college or in high school, and all I could see was college lacrosse. I wasn't looking past that. I literally didn't think about it, having kids or having a family or any of that. I just wanted to play college lacrosse. And maybe that was you at one point. where you were just so focused on, I have to raise my kids, I have to get them to be the best that they can be to get through college, whatever it was, to support my family, to grow my career. You had that vision. You were not thinking about, oh man, what's life like when I am going through menopause or perimenopause and life's different now, and you weren't thinking that far. And even if you were, you couldn't expect what it would be like. So we have to reset our identity, reset our vision and our goals, and come from a place of clarity, support, and simplicity. And that's exactly what I help you do, right? That's why number one step to bringing clarity to all this is I run functional labs. So instead of guessing why your stomach feels bloated, why you can't sleep at night, why you get irritable and you crave sweets all day, instead of guessing and trying different diets out, we just get the data that your body is telling us and we make adjustments in a lifestyle fashion that support that. So now you're moving with clarity. Another thing that I do in the beginning of working with people is to have women draw out their 2.0 self. And this is readjusting their focus in life. Because now maybe you're not trying to get that promotion or start that business or start a family. Maybe those things are things you've already accomplished, but we need something to hold on to. So what that is your 2.0 self. And we get really clear on how it feels and what the experiences are for you to live your best life. What's a day like? How do you wake up? Who are you with? How do you spend your time? How do you dress? How do you walk? How do you talk? Right? You go into very vivid detail of what that person looks like. And now that becomes your new North Star. And then every movement that you do, every habit that you embody, every step that you take is a step in the direction of that woman that you already are, but are continuing to become. Right? So now when you exercise, it's no longer to lose weight or to punish yourself for eating. It's a vote for your higher self, for you 2.0, because you embodied what it felt like. You journaled about it. You know what it feels like to be that higher self, to live that life. And so when you exercise, now it's a vote for that woman. When you prepare a nourishing meal, it is not to cut calories or to hit your macros. It is to nourish your body. It is to feel good. It is to have energy, and it is to support yourself towards a step towards that version of yourself, right? When you turn your phone off at night and have a journaling routine before bed, it is not to have another task on your list. It is to calm your nervous system down so that you can have the clarity to tap into that woman that you're becoming, that boundary that you've created, because you know that that woman has boundaries, and you know that she supports herself and her energy, and she's not just giving herself and her time to everyone else in life. It is time to focus on you now, right? So what I'm trying to get at is that this phase of life is refocusing back on yourself, right? It's not just about your career or that business or your family and all of their needs. All of that stuff is important, don't get me wrong. But you spent 10, 20, 30 years, focusing on everyone else. You were not focused on yourself at all. You spent all that time just go, go, go. What does everyone else need? Because I have to make it happen. I'm the matriarch in this family. I do what I need to do. Now, the focus comes back to you. And that's why drawing in that vision of yourself is super important, because your North Star might have died, right? Like you might not want to be the head of the company anymore because maybe you are, right? You might not want to be a mother anymore because you already are. And you might be becoming a grandmother, and that's great, but that's not your sole purpose in life, right? Your sole purpose is to become and continually evolve into your best self. And that's where the mindset shift changes. And that's why I take the approach of not being, Mr. Rah-Rah and Mr., militant style approach. It's more of an empathetic, but calm and simple and directive way of saying, look, we are not punishing ourselves by eating less. We are not punishing ourselves by working out. We are blessing ourselves, and we're voting towards that person that we're becoming. Because every step that you took to become that mother, to become that wife, to become that businesswoman, whatever you were doing, that was a vote for that person. And now we have to create a new vision and a new focus for ourselves in this transition of life. So I hope I'm not beating a dead horse on continuing to talk about this. but I hear you and I see you, and I've experienced what it's like, the emotional impact that and the toll that it's taking on your mental well-being, and that's causing you to feel frustrated and lost. And we no longer want that. We want you to feel supported, have clarity, have connection, and be able to step forward each day with that purpose and that vigor that lights you up and that did your entire life. And you don't have to do it alone. So I challenge you to take a step back and to understand, am I punishing myself through these actions? Do I have clarity on who I want to become? And what's the support that I need to continue down this road? Because I don't want you to feel frustrated anymore. That's why I'm building this community. And that's why I'm doing a live webinar. And if you're listening to this as it comes out, then you can participate in this. And if you're listening to it in the future, then you can still reach out for support. But on November 30th, which is a Sunday at 7 p.m., I'm going to go live and we're going to talk about some clarity about why your body's responding the way it is, what we can do about it, and the steps that you can take going forward so that you can feel confident in your approach and not frustrated anymore. So if you want more information about that, it's going to be on a Zoom call. It's going to be live. It's going to be free. And it's Sunday, November 30th at 7 p.m. where we're going to hop on. We'll do a little training. We'll do a little Q&A, and I'll be there to just answer any questions and support you. And my hope is that we can build this community and build the camaraderie between you and the other women who are going through this same phase of life so that you can support one another. Because once you see that also you're not alone in this journey, you can build the community and the support to have a compounded effect on your results and support one another. And that is super, super empowering. So I want to create that space for you. And again, if you want to join us, that's where we'll be. Reach out. I'll put the link for that live call in the description below. But aside from that, please take a step back. Maybe you journal about this. Maybe you just take some time to reflect. And it's not about taking an action step. It's not about drinking more water today. It's about bringing that intuition to yourself and realizing what your next North Star is and remembering that it's always the better version of yourself. So thank you for listening, and I will see you next week.
Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.